Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Well, we're talking insurance today with Dan Priest as we do every Monday afternoon, but we're going to talk a little different today. If you saw the Ask Me About Bolivar video last week, when we were out there filming, actually when I pulled off Highway 87 on 17th, and you can look down towards the jetties, and I saw something out there. Mm-hmm. And as I got closer, I was like, man, that boat's awful close to the jetties. And as I crossed one of the crossroads, I was like, oh man, that boat's on the jetties. And I was there to fly for one of the shows, and we flew it, got some great pictures of it. But, okay, here's what I know or have heard. The boat was borrowed from a brother. And bear with me a little bit.
This is new.
The boat was borrowed from a brother. Two people on the boat. One supposedly went through the windshield and was life flighted out, or Coast Guard lifted out. The other one was taken by land. Don't know which one was which. Don't know how they're doing. But now you have a boat sitting on the jetties. Okay, you have a liability. I'm assuming, is it the boat owner's responsibility or is it the operator's responsibility? Because those are two different people.
You know, every once in a while we start talking about possible claim scenarios, and
I always throw something off the wall.
So to begin with, there are so many different little factors that could affect a claim scenario and about what we're fixing to talk about. But we can talk generically about it and what may occur. So the boat owner owned the boat, and he allowed somebody else to drive it. So again, goes back to the policy. Is there permissive use in the policy? It's like an auto policy. Do you have permissive use? Can you loan your car out? Can you loan your boat out, and are you still covered in that situation? So let's kind of just assume that there is some coverage for that. Okay. So, boat lands on top of the jetties, it's got holes, it's probably leaking fuel.
I can say that I talked to some emergency personnel, and I said, because that was my worry, I'd been shooting videos out there for 2 weeks, and if you haven't seen the Ask Me About Bolivars on the North Jetties, the last 2 weeks we did the North Jetties, and the picture, the video that we got, the sun was up, but it was just beautiful out there. And so I asked him, I said, hey, we've been doing a lot of video work down there. Is there any fuel lossage? Because that was my first concern, was fuel lossage, because it's on rock, granite, and fiberglass and granite don't mix.
They don't very well.
And they told me we were out there for several hours. We didn't smell anything. We didn't see any sheens. And from what we could tell, everything's okay. The boat's going to be lifted off by a crane or a barge the next day. And so, I went back and looked at the video and didn't see anything on the marsh side or the Gulf side. And so,
yeah, so we're talking hypotheticals. So all the things that can happen. So the first thing is maybe there was some liability, and that can come. You can find maybe some restitution from that, either through the property damage section of the boat policy, or possibly some policies have a pollution cleanup liability that is associated to it. Boats have accidents and fuel spills, and you got to skim that oil or gas off the water or off the marsh. So that is maybe a spot that you could find some coverage. Of course, the boat owner, depending on how the policy is written and what type of policy is, could have coverage for his hull and motor that way. The brother was operating.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, this
Whoever
is
was
conjecture.
the operator.
A lone person was operating.
Right.
And there was somebody with them. Is there passenger liability on your boat policy? Like our golf cart policies carry that in case somebody falls out, and so does our boat. But is each policy have that along the way? And those are things you have to know. the damage of pulling the boat off the jetty, that's going to be somebody's responsibility. That's going to be expensive and somebody's responsibility. Is it going to go to the boat owner, who, in other words, owned the gun, or to the person he loaned it to?
Right.
And then even further beyond that, there is a case that could say, okay, yes, there is passenger liability. Yes, we're going to cover it. Yes, we're going to pay for pollution liability. Yes, we're going to pay for pulling the boat off the jetty. Yes, we're going to pay for some liability that may happen to the passenger, maybe to the person that he allowed to drive it. But then there could be the insurance company, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do that, but we're really not at fault here. The operator was, so we're going to do this thing called subrogation. And we're going to, as an insurance company, we're now going to go and try to after the operator, who was not a named person on the policy. Okay? So that's a very complicated claim scenario, but
it's all something that could happen.
Yeah, but if you get back into things I was kind of mentioning, because I have a boat policy, Mine is $300, mine is $700. Do you have passenger liability? Do you have coverage for loaning your car, loaning that thing out? Do you have coverage for pollution liability?
All those are adders.
All of those, it's the contract. How is that
Okay.
contract? What do you have in your contract?
Okay.
I mean, do I have replacement costs? Do I have actual cash value? There is a lot that goes on in these two policies, and just because, yes, you have some coverage for your hull, but we all do things that we don't really know we're doing.
Yep, right.
And so you need to understand what you have and how it's going to play out, because it's a bad time to find out
After the fact.
after the fact.
And we always say on insurance, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Oftentimes, something generally happens in our lives that's unexpected.
Right.
It does. And, it's hard to say, can you cover everything, because it's just
hard.
It's tough, and in some cases impossible. But for something like this, it's really important to know what you have. And because there's a lot of liability that we're talking about there, and then you get into the property damage limits. Let's say the boat policy pays for the property damage, and just like your auto, it's written with these low limits. Like you have coverage for maybe $30,000 for the boat for the person that is hurt, and $25,000 for the property you damage, but that's not going to go far.
Yeah.
Maybe for $20 a year, maybe you need $100,000 in property damage coverage.
Yeah. And it doesn't cost that much more to add it.
No, it does not.
I know when I was guiding and had a commercial policy on my boat, when I was talking to the agent, they said, what all do you want? I said, I don't care if I'm running down the intercoastal and a June bug hits someone in the forehead and they get a headache. I want to be covered.
Right.
Because I didn't want to have to worry about anything, and so that's I paid for it, but I got everything that I could get, because I didn't have to want to worry if they stepped down off the step and maybe they were using old flip-flops that they shouldn't have been wearing anyway. But if it was wet and they slipped, I wanted to be covered, And
you actually hit on something that's really important. When we think about boat insurance, golf cart insurance, car insurance, even house insurance, we're thinking about that insurance from the asset's point of view.
Right.
Okay, we're thinking about that asset. But each of those exposures carry what may be the most damaging thing that we have, and that's the liability component. If you lose your boat, even if you lose your house, or if you're carrying a big deductible on your house, that is in some ways recoverable. If you have a liability issue falling out of any one of those things, and you don't have adequate coverage, you're looking at a lifetime of garnished wages.
Right.
That's the exposure that is the not talked about exposure. And we kind of mix those things up, and we ought to always think about, from our perspective, the big loss.
Right.
And
what you can do to prevent it.
what you can do to prevent that.
So, well, if people want to get hold of you and maybe they've got an RV or a boat or a vacation rental or whatever, want to get hold of you, because Dan's got some great girls that really, and each of them has their own sort of specialty. Dan being it, having boats knows that. Shay and Smiley,
Yeah, there you
each
go.
has their own,
She
and
loves
so
that.
they're a great group of people to work with. Dan's been tied to the community down here for 40 years and has a home down here, so he knows what it's like to be on the coast and live the coastal life. How can they get hold of you?
Well, like this morning, meet me in the big store. I usually see people there. I'm easy to recognize. Call us, 409-755-7600 or priestinsuranceenagency.com. Love to talk with you.
Great. We're going to head on out. We'll be back next Monday at 4 o'clock for another insurance talk with Priest Insurance. Every week we're talking insurance, usually tied to the coastal region. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye. Priest Insurance Agency has been located in the heart of Lumberton, Texas since 2001, providing a consultative approach and educating customers on how their insurance works for them throughout the coastal region of Texas. Priest Insurance specializes in the coastal region of Texas, covering home, auto, business, and recreational insurance. With ties to the coastal communities, Dan Priest has had the sand between his toes since 1972, with a home on Bolivar Peninsula in Galveston County. He survived a storm named Ike, but lost his home. With insurance coverage, his family was able to rebuild following the 2008 storm and continues to make memories beachfront. Priest Insurance specializes in the coastal communities, family dwellings, investment property, and business insurance. They've been there. Whether you're looking for or have a family retreat along the Texas coast, investment property, or a business, Priest Insurance would be honored to work with you and your family to make sure you're covered anytime trouble arises. For more information on Priest Insurance and their contact information, please visit their website at www.priestinsuranceenagency.com, or their office is open for phone calls with questions and consultation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. by calling 409-755-7600. Priest Insurance Agency, working and educating customers, making sure they understand and have the coverage they deserve.